How's that shot look? See that? That is a great outside. Damn, you smart as hell.
Yeah, I just got a few talking points, bro. Let me make sure my shit's right. Oh, come on now. All right, so on 3.
Yeah, but we're gonna start having casual conversation. We go into it, so I'm gonna kind of ask you about, you know, if you heard about it. You're gonna
Yeah,
say like,
okay, yeah. We're not just gonna hop straight into it like breaking news. 1, 2, 3. Come in, come in, come in, come in, come in.
Sure, for sure.
Let's talk about it. The famous thing to say in the first 10 seconds.
Yeah, let's talk about it. That is the famous catchphrase. Let's talk about it. Who do you want to attribute that to? Is that just like?
Oh, I mean, let's. Oh no, that could be the name of the segment.
No, man. I don't know. Who do I hear to say that? Richard Rowe next to Blow. I hear him saying like, I don't know.
He says it a lot, you know. He definitely says it.
Let's talk about it.
Indeed. What we talking about?
Man, it's just 2026, New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's to everybody.
Happy New Year.
Man Cave Memoirs will be a weekly production, but there's just so much stuff that we be wanting to talk about, and we don't want to necessarily wait until Sunday. We want to talk about things when they're hot. We want to talk about things when, you know, it's just trending and it's conversational, and we have an opinion about something, and we just, you know, feel like we got to say something. So,
Right.
Man Cave Memoirs is going to have a few different offshoots. We're going to have hot takes, and we're going to have uncut news where we just talk about what's going on in the news. So, I don't know. I got up this morning and I started doing gold teeth, and all I seen was Trump everywhere. And I was just like, okay, let me see what's going on. And from the news reports, Trump goes into Venezuela and freaking kidnaps the president and his wife. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's just like, what is going on, bro? Like, what is really going on? Because I'm trying to make sense of it. Because now I'm looking through, it's like, it's so polarizing to my news feed. Every time I just swipe through, it's people having conversations about it. It's videos from Venezuela. It's just so much information. So me being me, man, I want to know the truth. I want to research. I want to know, you know, I want to gather my own impression by being informed. I just jump down the rabbit hole. I start researching, start looking up at videos. What time did you actually hear about it?
Man, I actually found out a little later on in the day. You know what I mean? Because I saw it on the news, or I saw it on my feed or whatever. I actually took a break, was doing some things around the house, so I wasn't on my phone and wasn't scrolling or whatever. So I saw it, and I just kept going or whatever. And then I came back, and then I actually, when I called you, I was like, hey, you see what's going on? And you were already
On it, yeah.
down the rabbit hole. So around 2 o'clock, I think, is when I came, which was late, because you said it happened at 2 in the morning. So
2 in the morning, bro. I woke
late.
up at 9 o'clock. It's all on my news feed, on my timeline.
At the beginning of the year, man, just what a way
3
to start
days,
off.
yeah.
What a way to
3
start off
days
the new year,
into
man.
2026. Man, I didn't know what to think at first. I was just like, man, like, is this even real? Is this reality TV? Like, this is like one of the most gangster things that I've seen a president do. And I'm not saying that it's either good or bad. It's just like bafflingly, boldly unbelievable.
Bold move.
That, you know, I'm just imagining what happens if like a foreign entity just paratrooped into America and just kidnapped the president. Like, it would just be mass hysteria. But initially, when I started to do my investigation and my initial research, what I was seeing was that they were going to arrest Maduro. Is that his name? Maduro?
Yeah, Maduro.
President Maduro. They were going to arrest President Maduro for narco-terrorism, things of that nature. So as I go down the rabbit hole of the narco-terrorism thing, I start to realize that cartels have a lot of influence in the political arena and the policies of countries like that, Venezuela, Colombia, just wherever fentanyl, cocaine, things like that are primary exports. So they're like the modern day mafia mobs in those respective areas. So the cartels have integrated and infiltrated those political factions in those particular areas, and that's breeding corruption and things like that. The mismanagement of funds and resources has caused a collapse of the economy there. So you got people rebelling, they're leaving, and I seen some notes that show that like a third of the population has exiled and went to look for a better life. So I'm saying all these things that are showing President Maduro to be a bad individual, and then I look into the conversation about him acting outside of his authority and power, that this is an act of war, an offensive escalation, and Congress hadn't voted or approved that. So that was the first bit of information that I actually gathered about it. What about you?
What's the question? I'm sitting here listening to
what was the first bit of information that you actually gathered about what was going on?
I mean, just really gathering that, like you said, the president of Venezuela had been taken into custody by the United States, and I didn't really know the history, with Venezuela or whatnot, because they have allies they're allies with Russia, China, Iran.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
which is our biggest rivals.
Right. So just finding that out, just that information being put, right out there, is like, man, this is not good. You know what I mean? Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it's not good, because we'll get into that, how it affects us
right
here. You know what I mean? But just on a global scale, this is just, it's just could lead to something big. It could have a big impact. The ripple effect could be pretty big. But, I know a lot of people are probably wondering, with this happening, where does this leave Venezuela with leadership? And
Thanks.
I believe the United States is going to provide temporary leadership.
Westernized democracy.
Yeah, they're going to oversee temporarily during the transition.
Right.
Which is supposed to be going to the...
I mean, we see how that goes in other countries where we have established Westernized democracy.
But yeah, what I was saying is it's supposed to be going to Machado, Maria, who's supposed to be leading the next president, or going to be taking...
You know that for sure already?
Well, that is speculated.
Speculated
that the person that won the Nobel Peace Prize
for sure. Okay.
Is next to blow.
You knew that before I sent you that video? Like,
no,
you had already heard
my
about
own research.
Okay.
But I didn't hear about the name. I didn't know she won a thing called Nobel Peace Prize or anything like that. Like, I just was gathering all this information. This was not on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
Nor was this on my bingo card for 2026.
Not on my bingo card for 2026 too. So like after I've assessed all the research and done the deep dive and started looking for the facts and the information, I started to get more clarity about what's actually going on right now. Of course, the pretense for the invasion of Venezuela and the extradition of President Maduro was based on the claims of narco-terrorism. And yeah, it could be a lot of drugs being funneled from Venezuela and Cuba and stuff like that. I don't deny any of that. But the true power play of what's going on is control of natural resources and changes of regimes. So Venezuela has the richest oil deposits in all of the world, and they also are rich with gold and silver. So this is one of the primary places where these natural resources are at. And if you've noticed, like we've always tried to, as a nation, go in and try to control places that have natural resources like what Venezuela has. But none of these other places have had it to this magnitude.
Yeah.
So I go to research and I'm like, well, how are they so poor? How are they destabilized? And then I start to understand there is corruption within the government. So, you know, Venezuela should probably be the beautifulest, brightest place with all of these natural resources, but they're in poverty. A lot of people are leaving. There's a regime that is controlling the resources. So I had to just go into this deep dive to realize what was going on. So what I came to learn about through this whole situation is that outside of Venezuela having the largest oil supply in the world, 1998 was a very important year because before 1998, American companies had stake in Venezuela. So Exxon controlled most of the oil that was coming in and out of Venezuela. So then in 1998, of course, their economy was failing because the American companies was taking the majority of the profits. They controlled the oil that was in Venezuela. And then in 1998, this guy named Chavez, he was democratically elected. So he actually was elected through a democratic process. But as he came in, you know, he started to have an authoritarian rule, started removing checks and balances and rewriting the Constitution. So I think the year was 2022, the chick Maria Machado, so she attempted to overthrow this particular government with funding and help from George Bush, and she was unsuccessful in doing so, and they kind of blackballed her from politics. She couldn't run for any type of politics anymore. And in 2007, what Chavez did was he nationalized oil, which basically means that the country of Venezuela now controls all of the oil. They basically kind of like outed Exxon and the other companies, stole a bunch of money from Exxon, pushed them out. So then they started controlling the way that they actually gave out the oil. And it seemed like China, Iran, and Russia became like the top receivers and recipients of this oil through like oil-based debt. And over time, of course, the cartels infiltrated that. You know, they started to put their stakehold in not just drugs, but into oil. And, you know, a lot of corruption took place. There's off-the-book sales of oil and stuff like that. And what happened in like 2013 is Maduro, the president now, the guy who got abducted. He was actually Chavez's vice president. So he comes into power. He continues with the building of this authoritarian regime. I believe somebody ran against him and he actually lost the popular vote, but somehow he managed to stay in power, which is how he became a dictator instead of a president. How he became a dictator instead of a president. So, you know, like, I remember President Obama was saying that this particular regime and these drug cartels was probably the biggest threat to democracy and national security. So, fast forward, Trump put sanctions on Venezuela in 2017, and then the chick Machado, she comes back in, she wins the Nobel Peace Prize in 2025, and she actually dedicates it to Donald Trump. So now what you start to see is Trump smashing these boats, you know, drug carrying boats, things of that nature. And of course we got to go in and we got to, you know, take out some bad guys and stuff like that. So he goes in, he gets Machado. Of course, there is a bigger play to this, to what's going on. How do you feel about that? I mean, ultimately there's an end game. I have a few ideas of what I think it is, but
yeah. First off, that was a good rundown on what has led up to this point. Second of all, your chat is jumping, so you may want to see what they're saying to engage. However, really, in summary, why this all matters, on top of what Tony just ran down, is that like you said, Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and really, any disruption impacts oil prices, inflation, and global markets.
For
And
sure.
that is something very important for us to keep an eye on because us in our town, in our state of Georgia, like we probably won't see like a direct impact, behind all this. You know what I mean? Um, so, yeah, just keeping that in mind. Um, this is something to keep an eye on. I definitely would say that this isn't something that is an emergency to us as citizens of the United States, but just something we need to watch because it could impact us down the line. Um, the end game, though, I think it's us getting the possession of the oil or the country and just the rights to do whatever we want to do, and kind of like how we allegedly have behaved in the past.
Yeah, so like that's an interesting thing too, because I was like saying like, he violated his authority. Congress didn't vote on this, and when I went and did the research, like the past five presidents have engaged in offensive attacks without congressional approval. That's Bush, Clinton, Obama, Biden. So all of them has done the same thing. So it's like, okay, so at what point and what actions merits this behavior? Like what allows this? So I see a lot of big power plays that's coming on. Like I think it's a big chess game that's being played. It's not even our board. We're just specks of dust on the board. But the top 1% are the ones who are actually making the rules and controlling the narrative of what's going on. So what I see happening is, this isn't the first coup. Through my research, I've realized that America has been responsible of over like 149 coups from 1949 up until present day, where they either tried to instill a government, overthrow a regime, or change power structure. So it's not like this is a new thing. I'm not saying that it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. All I'm saying is that it's not like the current president is the first person who's ever did any of these things. It's like it's just conquest and war. And once again, I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just what's going on. So instead of me being triggered or being mad by what's happening, I'm trying to learn how to make sure that myself and my family is in the best position moving forward. And how will these things affect us? So basically what I see going on is I see us going into Venezuela, putting in a westernized form of democracy in which we will have our own person of influence who we help finance to get in there and control it. And in this case, I believe it's going to be the chick, Machado. She's going to come in. We're going to usher her in as the new president. She's going to change relations with the United States. She's going to start funneling oil back into United States oil companies. And this is also going to kind of limit the amount of access that some of our rivals have in the Western Hemisphere. So, three major countries that are getting this oil from Venezuela is Russia, China, and Iran. So now you kind of remove them out of our backyard. Plus, the bigger play is reestablishing the petrodollar, which is something that we've instilled to ensure that American currency stays at a particular place. So it's a rule to where anybody who's trading oil has to trade it in the American dollar. So us taking control of this particular oil reserve is just going to make it easier for us to attempt to stabilize the dollar and fight hyperinflation. So I see that happening, and I think it's really just an attempt to ensure that we maintain strengths in the world platform, and we're able to compete with coalitions like BRICS, which is basically a coalition of countries who have already established themselves to do trade without the influence of America, especially in the terms of trading oil. So they trade oil amongst each other without utilizing the petrodollar. So I think that this is just a long-term move to stabilize the dollar, kind of send a message, ensure that we can kind of keep our rivals from encroaching into our backyard, and make sure that we're able to compete with coalitions like BRICS. What I do see is, it's a chess game. So I do see these other countries that will be affected by this making some type of motions. I'm not going to say that they're just going to declare a war on America. Like, why would they do that? That's stupid. But I do feel like it's a chess game. So from a financial aspect and from a trade aspect, there'll probably be some counter actions from those countries as well, to try to hinder the acceleration of what America is doing.
What's the chat talking about?
Let me see what the chat's talking about. Let me see.
Hey, and while he's doing that, I just want to say that anything I say or anything that we say about the economy, crypto, just anything about buying stocks or anything like that, this is not financial advice. So this is just research we've done, and we're just sharing what we have researched. With that being said, the economic impact of this, some things I was able to find out is that this could cause a possible gas price volatility. Just
for sure.
Up and down.
For sure. I'm expecting that.
I don't know. I don't really know what to expect because the timing of this happening on the weekend, just coming into a week, like this is going to be the big thing coming into a week, and it's I don't even know. Like to some people it may be negative. To some people it may be positive. I was watching, listening to some interviews. What's that news channel? Rutgers. Yeah. They were interviewing a Venezuelan woman who had left Venezuela and went to Spain. Like I think they said 7 million people have left since this that president has been in power.
In power, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think you said earlier, a third of their
population. Yeah.
So yeah, and she was saying that her father, still stayed there, and she's eager to get back and reconnect with him now that this has happened because he always believed it would happen, but now it's actually happening. So some people may view this as positive, while some may view it as negative due to the harshness that this was handled. Like you say, everything wasn't signed off on, but here, look at, not to be facetious, but we look at the 50 Cent and Diddy, like 50 put out this documentary, and a lot of this stuff wasn't signed off on. He got it illegally, and but they still put it out. I just had to throw that out there.
For sure. Let's see what the chat's talking about. Matt Powell, what's up? Thanks for checking in. Jason Jones, thanks for checking in. Francesca Morris, my dog, thanks for checking in. Matt Powell says Trump wants to oil Venezuela is the #1 exporter of oil, then Trump is using this to flood the crypto markets. I wouldn't be surprised. There's always an ulterior motive. There's always a move with any type of political movements like this when you're staging a coup and you're eyeing natural resources. And like I said, I'm not saying that it's the right thing. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing. I'm just saying that it seems to be a trait of America. Like we've been doing this shit for 30, 40 years. Like it's nothing new under the sun. So I'm more concerned about when I think about how this would affect my life is I just feel like it's too many really, 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 really wealthy people or groups who control narratives, they control powers, and they're playing chess. We just innocent bystanders. So like my mentality now is like, I'm thinking about what is the safest place that I can live in the case that I need to make an exit, right? So that's why I'm traveling more, just getting in tune with different places, and I'm going to start traveling abroad more. So just in case things start to get weird and I have to move around for a couple of months, I want to go somewhere that I'm comfortable. There's not a lot of civil unrest. There's not a lot of domestic situations. There's not a lot of talks of war or things like that, and then I can just bounce back around.
What place did I say that was?
New Zealand.
New Zealand. Shout out New Zealand.
Yeah,
Shout out everybody in New Zealand. Tap in.
In the case everybody starts pressing buttons and stuff like that, I want to be in the most neutral space to not be affected by any type of nuclear warfare.
Right. And the reason we
shout out Rashawn.
Reason I mentioned New Zealand is because during the pandemic, when they were doing the social distancing and lockdown, New Zealand was one of, I think, only 2 countries that had 0 COVID cases.
New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's different.
So that just goes to show the climate of that country.
Francesca Moore said this would be a great thing after 27 years. Venezuela will be free again. Also, if Maduro wouldn't have helped China build military strongholds against the USA, taking all that stuff close to our shores. Possible. Like I can see your point with that. I definitely understand the desire not to have these foreign rivals encroaching so close to us. So when you see a government like Venezuela destabilizing and them already having these big relationships with places like Russia and China, one of two things is going to happen. They're going to start to strengthen their influence in this area, or somebody else is going to overthrow the regime locally or something of that nature. So it was just like, okay, what's probably going to happen is that China or Russia is going to put their hooks a little bit tighter into Venezuela, start putting bases and stuff over there, and then that's not going to be a good thing for America.
No, exactly. And you got another one?
Jamal X the God, what's going on, King? Mexico is the number 2 exporter of silver needed for microchips and infrastructure. Matt Powell, thanks for checking in. I got to check into that. I don't know if that's entirely true, but I'm not saying that it's not. It might definitely be true. Mexican people are begging for USA to rescue them from the cartel, and the government ran by them as well. Interesting, the president is a female with a Jewish last name. The Mexican president is Jewish and female? I gotta go look that up. What's her name? Hit me with her name, Francesca. Rayshawn, Brian, thank you for tapping into the conversation. Thank you so much.
I got one over here, bro.
What you got?
All right, Brian Marita says, ask a Venezuelan, he just liberated them. Why do you think they are crying with happiness all over the world?
I have not seen one person from South America or from Venezuela upset with what's happened. Like, I'm seeing hundreds of thousands of people rejoicing in the streets. But I try not to get too sidetracked by those visual aesthetics, because, you know, of course we see any government is going to have people who passionately disagree with them, or who are looking to oppose them, or to remove them from power. I mean, every president that we've ever had, there's always been some type of protest and counter-protest of people who didn't necessarily like the administration that was currently elected or present.
Mm-hmm. And before I forget, I do want to note that Bitcoin crossed over the 91,000 marker since we've been live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've probably been watching it. It's been hovering at about 87,000 for about the last month or so, since it pulled back. But a lot of Venezuelans are relying on Bitcoin. You know, for the stability. You know what I mean? To somewhere to put their money, to store their money. So
Rambo, thanks for checking in.
That's a big
CT Holloway, thanks for checking in.
That's something to keep an eye on. That over this may be something that pushes Bitcoin up closer to that $200,000 mark that we're expecting at the end of the year.
For sure. Prince Rambo, he said, get your bunker ready. Hey man, that's really where it's at. Like, if I'm over here, I really want to get underground just so I can, you know, protect myself from anything that could potentially happen. Generators, flashlights, for sure. Definitely a doomsday prepper. I know Fran's a doomsday prepper too. Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo is the Mexican president. We gotta do some research on her and see where she comes from. Timmy Wynn, getting me for all your firearm needs. He's in Albany. If you were in that area, man, hook up with him. He will help you out. Sean Eckenberry, great conversation. Thank you so much for chiming in. So, you know, in conclusion, we're going to start going live more. We're going to talk about these things as soon as they start trending. But, you know, from what I see, you know, the tagline of what's going on is about narco-terrorism. And yes, they are potentially responsible for helping a lot of these drugs like fentanyl and cocaine come into our country, because they have been infiltrated by cartels. But I think that the real power play here is natural resources and regime changes. And it's not uncommon for American money to meddle in foreign politics, stage coups, try to overthrow governments. It's nothing new. We've been doing it for a long time. We got over 149 bases all across the world, so this isn't nothing new. And I think the big power play is for us to control some of that oil, get access to some of that oil back to American companies where we have been shut out before, put an American influence, democracy, voted representative into that country that will, strengthen the relationships that we have with them, and to kind of limit the access that Iran, Russia, and China have in the Western Hemisphere, and also to stabilize the petrodollar and to rival and kind of counteract the coalition that BRICS has. So it's very interesting. Like I've gotten to a stage of maturity as I learn about world events and politics, not to be polarized or to be upset or to get angry. Now it's like, okay, how do I govern myself the most appropriately? How do I? Because a lot of the stuff that we see when you see this stuff in the news, we get passionate, we talk about it, people quarrel, they have debates and things like that. But in reality, there is nothing that we can do about this stuff. Like it's happening. It is what it is. All we can do is really get on social media and create a conversation and dialogue. So I would rather put my energy, instead of getting mad or fighting my peers or fussing and arguing, is us have an intellectual conversation about it and then talk about how do we move forward. So for me, the way that I move forward is I acquire more assets. I acquire more gold, more silver. They had record-breaking years. There's 2025. Try to diversify my portfolio to where I can buy more land, because they're not making any more land. And by the year 2030, you're going to have hedge funds like BlackRock and Vanguard who own the majority of single-family homes, and they're buying this stuff up aggressively. So the rich are getting richer by acquiring these assets. So we really only have a limited number of years to get in and acquire some of these assets. So while I'm doing that, I'm learning how to make more money online. So in the case that I have to vacate these premises for a length of time, I can finance my lifestyle somewhere else, right? So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with it. Larry Jr., thank you for tapping in.
Yeah, for sure. Just to add on to what Tony just said, control the controllables. We are in a situation, or this is a situation to where very few of us have any impact or any say so on what's going on. You know what I mean? So control the controllables is just a food for thought. Also, some stocks to watch in result of this, or just during this, as this plays out. ExxonMobil, Chevron, and Halliburton. They are into drilling for oil. So just some things to look at for those of you that are into the market like that. This isn't financial advice. Just
what's the chart say? What's Exxon and Chevron's ticker look like right now?
Go ahead. I didn't
pull
even
this up. Yeah. I'm
Exxon,
curious.
Ticker XOM. It is up. Today it's up 2%. But that's, it's the weekend. You know what I mean? There's no trading during the market during the weekend. Let's see the other one.
When you put it in, let me see, show my people.
Okay.
Exxon is XOM. Chevron is CVX. And Halliburton is HAL. So if you're on Robinhood, if you're on Acorns, set a reminder on these tickers. Watch how they move. And if this is something that you feel like is in good interest for you, by all means invest. I'm just looking at what's going on, and I know by the time these companies have access to the largest oil reserves in the world, that it's very possible that the price of their stock goes up. So once again, instead of getting mad, instead of getting upset, we control the controllables. And one thing that we can do is get in position and try to find a way to benefit from what's going on. Because the only other option is for us to be upset, mad, sulk, pout, and get into online debates, which is not doing anything to progress our life. It's just stimulating conversation, which is good to a degree, but hey, we got to figure out how to take advantage of situations that are beyond our control.
Facts. Hey, before we hop out of here, I just need to shout out Brian, who had the question or had the statement about the liberation for the Venezuelans. Shout out Carlos tuning in. Shout out Janice tuning in. My aunt.
Sheldon McCray in Tennessee eating pho. I definitely want to get some pho. Claudia Scheinberg's ethnicity is Mexican with Jewish heritage from her grandparents who immigrated from Lithuania and Bulgaria, making her the first Jewish person and woman to be elected president of Mexico. She was raised in a secular household but identifies with her ancestry according to sources like NPR. Larry Johnson, thank you so much for that information. I don't know if I want to say what I want to say, but that is definitely a conversation for another pod. But it's just interesting the level of influence that a particular type of people have in foreign government and politics. And it's interesting. Very, very interesting.
Very interesting. Very.
One thing that I researched, and we're going to put it on another podcast, is that we're going to call them the Yarmulke population. The Yarmulke population is less than 1% in America. Did you know that?
What is that?
The Yarmulke population?
I don't know
You got to
what
go
that is.
research Yarmulke. We ain't going to get too in deep on the live. But the Yarmulke population is less than 1%. But that population controls 90% of the money.
Sound like you trying to get us put in Facebook jail.
No, I'm not, man. That's why I said the Yarmulke people. You know, but they control 90% of finances. JP Morgan, Yarmulke man. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Listen.
Rothschild, Yarmulke man.
Listen.
Rockefeller, Yarmulke man.
Listen. Got any more?
Nah, I ain't gonna spill about it. It's like 12 or 13 of them.
Listen. So, bottom line, you know, for those of y'all that's been tuning in, we thank y'all for tuning in.
Absolutely.
And in conclusion to all this, you got to stay informed.
For sure.
You got to watch the energy prices, oil, you know, I mean, when we're talking about the stocks, and you have to expect ripple effects in some shape, form, or fashion, just with this going on. And most importantly, don't panic.
Don't panic. And do your own independent research.
Facts.
Please do your own independent research. There are created narratives from prominent media outlets who are controlled by a certain group and class of people. And it's designed to keep us divided. So you have to go do your own independent research. You have to look at third-party journalists. You have to go look at journalists who are actually in the country of the conflicts. So go look at Venezuelan journalists and see what they're talking about, and then create your theory or your perception of what's going on. So, any other shout outs from you?
Shouts out to all my Latin Americans. Shouts out to all my Caribbeans. You know, just the people that I know of that descent. You know what I mean? Shout out to all the people tuning in this evening. That's about it, man.
For sure, man. I'm going to shout out everybody who's been tapping in. We're going to continue to grow this particular podcast. We got another 2 or 3 in development. But the goal is to have intellectual conversation that stimulates the mind and progresses society. So we're going to continue to have the conversations, even if they're difficult, even if they're tough. And thank you so much for everybody who tuned in. Until next time, Tony Tong, Urban Demand.
Big Trill, it's me, Snitches.
Best in the flesh.
Easy work. Quick little